Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Chris Lato. If you've been a longtime viewer of the show, then you'll know that I do theory videos. It's actually why I started creating content in the first place, trying to write books back in 2014. I spent the last 3 months working with ChatGPT-4 to refine the theory. This video will play off my previous videos. The last video was on Prigogine. Russian-Belgian physical chemist Ilya Prigogine coined the term dissipative structure. And for that, he received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1977. These are very interesting dynamical regimes that can be regarded as thermodynamic steady states, but they're extreme. They're so far extreme, they're so asymmetrical that they end up being steady state, thermodynamic steady state of the extremes. Prigogine won the Nobel Prize for inventing this. Basically, a dissipative system is a thermodynamically open system, sounds familiar, like Earth, which is operating out of and often far from thermodynamic equilibrium. So thermodynamic equilibrium is basically the same temperature state, what you're expecting every system to go to, right? That's what we expect. In an environment with which it exchanges energy and matter, again, sounds like Earth. A tornado may be thought of as a dissipative system. Dissipative systems stand in contrast to conservative systems. A dissipative structure is a dissipative system that has a dynamical regime that is in some sense in a reproducible steady state. My whole life, I've always wondered how entropy, which is the second law of thermodynamics, everything goes towards disorder, that the universe will end up in a heat death, right? This boring heat death in the future. If that's true, and the second law of thermodynamics is complete, then how do you explain life, right? How do we explain systems like you and me appearing that are not disordered? They're actually more ordered than the dirt and rocks and water just laying around, right? We're just made out of matter laying around, but it's more ordered matter. So my whole life growing up, I went into chemistry. I learned about material science at the Air Force Academy, really to answer this question. At the same time, looking around at the world around me and seeing what were some basic obvious structures. I think life is a dissipative structure. The sun hits the earth, pumps us with energy, and we are in an extreme system, a dissipative structure. That energy creates life. That was from my last video, that dissipative structures should be expected. We should expect life around any energy gradient. So anytime you have a change in energy, anytime you have an energy gradient, like on the earth, I think you have an energy gradient. It's spinning. You have hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold in a certain frequency. That's going to create certain life on the earth. If we can look out the big picture, it gives us a lot more information, situational awareness on where we are in that picture and where we can go into the future. It gives us more situational awareness. And that's what I think the biggest point of the theory that I'm about to present. So I wrote it into actual paper using ChatGPT-4 over the last 3 to 4 months. Chris Lato, welcome to Lato Files. Thank you so much for being here. Please smash the like button if you do like the theory videos. They're not my most watched, but man, they are my most loved, I think. Please subscribe. Helps the channel, and turn on notifications to get notified of when we have new videos. And finally, thank you so much to the Patreons. You'll notice I have no paid promotions anywhere on these videos. I am solely sponsored by you guys. Thank you so much for watching, for the super chats, for being YouTube members, for being Patreon members. So go to patreon.com/Chris Lato to sign up, as well as all our other avenues. So thanks again. Couldn't do it without you guys. And I'll be going to DC strictly because of you and specifically the Patrons. Let's get to the video. Okay, so this is a technical video, but I'm going to go through it smoothly. I think you can follow with me. So we started off on a dissipative system. A dissipative structure, okay, is characterized by the spontaneous appearance of symmetry breaking, anisotropy, that word, and the formation of complex, sometimes chaotic structures where interacting particles exhibit long-range correlations. I mean, look at that. Examples in everyday life include convection, turbulent flow, cyclones, hurricanes, living organisms. Okay, less common examples. Let's look at that. Lasers, Bernard cells, droplet cluster, and this thing I am not even going to try to pronounce. Okay, why am I talking about dissipative structures? The idea is to give some basic outline. What is the theory for everything going on this planet? Right? What is going on? If you look at actual political science theory, let's look at our political science theory currently. Political science is the supposed scientific study of politics, which is the social science dealing with the analysis and implementation of systems of governance, okay, and its impact on societies, right? But if we go to international relations here, the three main schools of thought within IR, of which the most prominent are realism. Okay, this is just the theory that nations will just do what is best for them. So I believe this is probably the truest, and I'll explain why. But this is the realism theory. Will nations just do what is best for them to maximize their wealth and power to survive? Liberalism is just rejection of power politics, saying that that's not true. It questions security warfare principles. Yeah, this I would love to see more of this. And then we have constructivism. It asserts significant aspects of interrelations are shaped by ideational factors. Okay, these are basically collectively held beliefs of the society. It's like the memes of the people. Okay, these are the basic ones. Nowhere in here do you see any sort of evolutionary theory. Basically, the field of political science on Earth is chaos. There are no actual laws, there's no real rule keepers. It is just chaos. Okay, it's dog eat dog. That is the basic general theory. And that's it. So growing up, I was very interested in political science. I almost majored in poli-sci. I was very interested in it. But to me, this doesn't explain why nations do evil things like murder. You know, that's what war is. War is literally nation state sponsored murder. That's what it is. Or how can you have evil in the world? Why is there childhood cancer? This was always curious to me. I couldn't understand it. From my outside perspective was, if God is great, then why is there evil in the world? Why is there childhood cancer, etc.? So I couldn't understand it growing up. And I think that this, at least the scalar theory, at least gives a model to actually understand that. And it makes sense to how the UFO secret could be kept secret for so long. You know, how could the people do that? And is it really the people doing it? Okay, I think it's actually the systems, like I talked about, those dissipative systems that form. I think those is actually what forces the people to do it, right? I don't think they want to do it. Look at this. From the Stanford prison experiment was a psychological experiment conducted in the summer of 1971. It was a 2-week simulation of a prison environment that examined the effects of situational variables on participants' reactions and behaviors. Stanford University psychology professor Philip Zimbardo led the research team who administered the studies. Okay, participants were recruited from the local community with an ad in the newspapers offering $15 per day to male students and wanted to participate in a psychological study of prison life. Volunteers were chosen after assessments of psychological stability and then randomly assigned to being prisoners or prison guards. Critics have questioned the validity of these methods. Turns out they don't do these types of experiments anymore for ethical reasons. The people were randomly assigned to be a guard or a prisoner, right? And the results were quite telling on human psychology in general. So those volunteers selected to be guards were given uniforms specifically to de-individuate them and instructed to prevent prisoners from escaping. The experiment officially started when prisoners were arrested by real Palo Alto police. Over the following 5 days, psychological abuse of the prisoners by the guards became increasingly brutal. After psychologist Christina Maslach visited to evaluate the conditions, she was upset to see how study participants were behaving, and she confronted Zimbardo. He ended the experiment on the 6th day. SPE has been referenced and critiqued as one of the most unethical psychological experiments in history. The harm inflicted on the participants prompted universities worldwide to improve their ethics requirements for human subjects of experiments to prevent them from being similarly harmed. Other researchers have found it difficult to reproduce the study, especially given those constraints. Critics have described the study as an unscientific and fraudulent. So quite interesting. So I'm not a psychologist. I'm curious to hear your inputs in the comments, but the point is that at least this experiment, this famous experiment, shows that people easily fill the roles that they're put into. The pressure cooker that you're put in of your ecosystem is really going to create you, define you, and allow your thoughts. Okay, the higher dimensional space, like Michael Levin says, the higher dimensional space sets the world of probabilities for the lower dimensional space. Check out a previous video again if I'm losing you. But here we go. So this would be how we would have evil in the world. Okay, if you have certain structures that form, certain dissipative structures that are going to model after normal nature on this planet. Okay, nature is dog eat dog. If you go into the natural world, I don't think it's going to be much cooperation out there. Okay, if it's cooperation, it's really because both parties are benefiting. Okay, that's the only time you actually have cooperation in the natural kingdom. So I think that the political world is the same thing as the natural kingdom. For some reason, we stop the natural world at the human level, never mind the tribes, the cities, the counties, the states, the nations, the corporations, the global corporations. The argument is this theory proposes a model to look at these organizations, nations, global corporations as actual living entities on Earth and apply the same basic laws and expectations that we apply to life on Earth, that it will undergo evolution, that it has a birth and a death, that it has to gain resources for its own metabolic systems, and it has to reproduce, kill, and survive. So that's the idea. So first, I want to just show quickly how I worked through the theory. This is ChatGPT, and if you haven't seen ChatGPT, you can talk to the same basic topic. Okay, so I have several of these over a period of months. What I did is I put my actual transcript from my last theory video, okay, into ChatGPT and asked it to write me a description and chapters. It did pretty good on the description, okay. I don't think I used that actually, but man, it cannot get the chapters correctly. For some reason, ChatGPT 4 at least cannot get the times correct. But after that, what I found is I was enjoying talking to ChatGPT. So what you'll see is just me asking it questions, okay, putting in my own theories, now asking it, can you list out and compare the sizes of all things, going from the smallest we know about to the biggest? Make it simple to read as a table and then note any repeating patterns. Could there be repeating patterns of neural networks at different scales? So for this, I was considering neural networks. Why? Because our brain is obviously a neural network, and so is at least the structure, the basic structure of the full universe. The galaxies were actually shown to be statistically significant in structure related to your brain structure. So that's the reason for that. But let's see what it put out. So what it started putting out was a scale. What's amazingly powerful about ChatGPT is that it can look across so much data. These large language models can look across all of Wikipedia, essentially, everything that it was programmed on. And so I asked it, like you saw there, just list out and compare the sizes. Okay, and here's what we got. Okay, it listed out like this in a table. So this is what I'm talking about, different scales. This is actually how I got to the final paper that we'll go through. Okay, talking through ChatGPT, and you can see how long this is. Look, just keeps going, keeps going. So we talk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is over a period of a few months. And then I got to a rough draft. And then you'll see there's another whole chat line. So this is basically the research from the actual paper. So if you want to read the full paper, I'll just go through a couple highlights here, try and explain the general gist. And then you can go to Twitter and actually check it out for yourself. I just posted it there. I actually really like Twitter. It seems like the only place I feel not censored online. You can also go to my patreon.com/Chris Lato. They don't censor there at all. So that is amazing as well, at least from what I can tell. This is actually my CryptoPunk nerd with a mohawk. And this is my Twitter. So please go there and subscribe. Follow me. That'd be great. I hope to put out new content there as well. So here it is. Scalar theory of the multiverse, a size-dependent emergent property approach. I put myself as an author, obviously, and I also put ChatGPT 4 because I could not have written this paper without ChatGPT 4. And I think it should be there. So here's the abstract. This paper presents a novel approach to understanding the universe from the lens of scalar theory, positing the existence of different dimensions defined by their scale. Each scale or dimension is proposed to possess distinct yet subtly different physical properties arising as emergent phenomena akin to the varying frequencies of musical notes. This theory reframes the multiverse as different scales of existence within our fractal universe, each with unique dimensional properties. So again, ChatGPT basically organized the abstract in that way, and ChatGPT added the word fractal. That was quite interesting to me. That fractal, when I was going through the actual theory on my own, using pen and paper, Google searching over the past few years, making these videos, I had a few people mention fractal, but I never really brought it into the theory. It seemed too much of a buzzword. Like you can say fractal for anything, that it's almost has little value. But ChatGPT actually used it and related that it does play into this theory. And so, yeah, again, ChatGPT was definitely an author on this paper. So the scalar theory of the multiverse challenges the conventional understanding of physical laws, proposing that these laws operate differently at various scales. This is really the gist of the whole theory, okay, is we stop thinking about how systems work, how evolution works at our level, right? There's nothing above us. The largest, most dominant organism on this planet is, my guess is you're going to say human, right? But is that really the case? When you're born, you are born into a system. You are born into an organism, just like your cells are born into you. Do you really have a choice not to be born into your country? It's quite difficult to change nations. We see that. You're born with a number, you die with a number, and you will pay taxes, and you will work, and you will go to school to fill the needs of the organism. The argument is we just don't apply our human bias onto the data set. We just allow it to continue. This theory posits that each scale represents a distinct dimension with subtly different physical laws emerging due to the inherent properties of the scale. So what I noticed growing up is that the systems at the national level had analogies at the organism level and even smaller. If you look at at a nation, right, it has borders, same as your skin, right? It has a porous membrane. It has a neural network, right? The Congress is actually making the decisions. It has a military. It has resource requirements. It has waste requirements. It has transportation lines for heavy materials, right? Liquid materials through your roads. And then it has a communication network similar to your nerves that move fast as light. I mean, the analogies seem very, very obvious if you can just remove the bias, right? Which is the human bias. So the argument is at each scale of size, what you have is emergent properties, right? You're not a human until you're a certain number of cells. How many cells? We still don't know. Right? I mean, go and look at how many cells are in a human body. When I first started looking, it was 300 billion. I think now we're up to 2 trillion cells. It's in an average human body. Orders of magnitude different. We can't even tell how many cells are actually in a body. But at some point, when you get enough cells together of you together, there's an emergent property of a human, right? Together. This is an emergent property. You wouldn't suspect it based on looking around this place, right? That a human would be there. But it's an emergent property of having enough cells, enough individual little cells doing their own little specific jobs to help me or you live. And so the argument is at different scales, you have that same basic structure or similar structures again. So this would mean that you and I, each one of us humans, is just a cell in a much larger system. Different systems, actually. Just like your cell is a part of the epidermis, which is a part of your arm. My nail, which is also a part of my finger, which is a part of my hand and my arm and the rest of my body, right? All working together so that we all survive, right? Sounds similar to a nation. Argument is it's just a different scale. Once you have enough humans together, then you will have an emergent property of a nation. You have a new entity, a larger being. That's why the corporations, which sounds like they are alive, right? Walmart will do whatever it takes not to die, won't it? Amazon, man. Think how many people Amazon would kill not to die. And now think of governments, which are essentially the largest corporations, the ones only authorized to do murder. They authorize themselves to do murder. And then finally, why stop there? Why stop at the national level? Keep going. And that would help explain UFOs, UAPs. Where are they coming from? What are their general intentions? What do they want? We can look at our natural world and we can extrapolate at least as far as we know about our natural world and push as much as we can to get our government to actually release the information that they're illegally keeping from us. Okay, so this perspective hopefully reframes the concept of the multiverse, not as a collection of separate parallel universes, but as different scales of existence within our universe now. This paper aims to inspire new avenues of research and exploration of our fantastic universe. David Grush mentioned some crazy stuff in his interview with Ross Coulthart. He was talking about 5D space. And what he's saying is we don't know point of origin for these entities or beings called non-human intelligence. We can't tell really where they're coming from. But he did say there's reasons to suspect that they are interdimensional beings. And he described this sort of 5D space, etc., as being here, right now. How could that be the case? Well, if you had a multiscalar, they actually could be coming from a larger dimension. I know it sounds insane, but you could be coming, or at least the information could be coming from a larger dimension. If you have emergent properties, imagine you have a much larger organism than the nation even, or even the planet. What if you had a local subsystem, or the galaxy even, that has some sort of emergent properties? Now imagine that entity, or whatever it is, that emergent being at a different scale, right? Scale is just frequency, essentially. And we still don't know what the fundamental particle is. It looks like there's nothing there. That larger entity could be interacting with us through interdimensional technology, advanced technology, that somehow can create, I don't know, synthetic beings that can somehow do its bidding, etc. I don't know. The argument is, if you give yourself a shot, what is actually going on at the micro level? So that's the idea of this, is to break free of our biases and to look at the whole system up and down. So this is just awesome here. After all those discussions, I asked ChatGPT, because it remembers, right? In that one same discussion, if you're talking to it in the same discussion, it remembers. I just said, for an advanced audience, summarize the entire music scalar fractal theory as accurately as possible. And this is after we talked for 3 months, like you saw earlier. The scalar fractal theory of the universe, likened to musical structures, is a speculative idea suggesting repeating patterns and designs akin to how we observe in music. This theory posits a universe that can be understood in terms of scales, keys, and tones, each corresponding to different scales of size or energy in the physical world. I picked music because it seems like the closest representation to physical implementation of light. I don't know if I described that right, but you basically have the EMF spectrum, which is the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. But what we're seeing actually in the data is repeating patterns in the same location. How can you have the same actual object or entity in the same physical space? And what I thought too was music. In music, you can have high frequencies along with lower frequencies in the same exact space. They can be the same note even. An A is an A, but in different octaves. This always blew my mind. How could this possibly be the case? And yet we see similar actions with light, colored light in the visible spectrum. If you follow a color wheel actually continues all the way around. It continues all the way around. Isn't that kind of mind-blowing? If it was just a linear scale, it shouldn't continue back around. It should go to something else or just disappear. But the color wheel goes around in a wheel, meaning that there's some sort of closed loop. And there's something that happens in music as well. Every 8 notes, it seems to repeat. It's actually the 12th root of 2. Did you know that? Almost every doubling is when you have an octave. Almost a doubling of frequencies. It's the 12th root of 2, actually. So is there a similar key? Is there a similar special number like that at different levels? Would that set a key for each dimension that would allow these emergent properties these types of physical effects that we see. We know life at our dimensional level, the human level, is very different from life at the microscopic level. Viruses have a very different experience to the universe than you and I do. It's a different dimension. Gravity is much less affected to the lower dimensions. As you go even smaller, now it's a totally different type of physics, quantum physics. Could this be equivalent to a step down in octaves? What this would mean is, could you find some sort of octave relationship that could combine quantum mechanics, the very, very small, to general relativity, the very, very large, Einsteinian? In between, you have us, Newtonian dynamics. And what we found, what ChatGPT-4 and I found, is that there does appear to be these three octaves, three main octaves, actually a fourth. There's actually a start of a fourth octave in the results that show that it does repeat. And this would mean if there are actually repeating patterns that we can see, this is an observational theory, then it means we could look for a possible theory of everything. Could there be some way using this theory that ties together general relativity, the emergent effects that happen at general relativity, with the emergent effects that happen at the quantum mechanical realm? Because right now, that is the biggest problem. That is what a theory of everything would do, is it would relate these two together. Could it be related through a type of musical theory, such as the one I'm proposing? The idea draws on self-similarity and fractal structures, patterns that repeat at various scales. In music, we see this in the octave arrangement of a scale. Each octave is a repeat of the same set of intervals, but at a higher frequency. The theory suggests that the universe, too, might exhibit such repeating structures across different scales. The theory further suggests that these universal tunes might help us better understand the laws that govern the universe across different scales, potentially providing a fresh perspective on long-standing problems in physics, such as the incompatibility between quantum mechanics and general relativity. And this is amazing here, where it can just come up with these just broad, amazing analysis. For example, consider the universe's size scales analogous to musical octaves. Phenomena like elementary particles, atoms, biological organisms, planets, galaxies, and the entire observable universe might each correspond to a particular note or key. Under this framework, the constants of nature would be akin to the harmonic relationships between these different keys. For instance, the gravitational constant, Planck's constant, the speed of light, etc., would all play critical roles in defining these relationships, much how specific ratios and intervals define the relationships between notes in a musical key. I do like this. It gives strengths and weaknesses. On the strength side, it offers a potential unifying perspective that might help us see connections between different areas of physics that currently seem incompatible. It also provides a novel approach to predicting and understanding new phenomena by looking for repeated patterns at other scales. Yes, the idea is, like Mendeleev's periodic table of elements, is there a certain table of the universe that would allow us to forecast? On the weak side, the theory is speculative, definitely, and it risks oversimplifying the universe's complexity. Furthermore, it could be challenging to make precise predictions with this theory given the vastness of the scales involved and the myriad of variables in the universe. I think the other way, it gives us so much data to work with. If it's true, then we should be able to see it quite clearly. Finally, to the methods and results. The foundation of this theory lies in the observation of similar emergent properties recurring at scales differing by a factor of 10 to the 21, analogous to repeating octaves in music. Okay, so this is my tweet from July 7th, and then corrected because ChatGPT does make mistakes. So here's the actual table. You can see here, counting up from minus 36, 10 to the minus 36 meters, super small, and in step changes of 1,000. 3 zeros going up the scale. Here's humans right here, around 1 meter, so 10 to the 0, and then it steps up from there. A couple things we can notice first is from humans all the way to the observable universe is 10 to the 27 meters. So if we go to 10 to the minus 27, you'll see quarks and electrons is about the smallest we can see. We're just starting to get into the quantum realm. And then the smallest possible, according to our current science, smallest possible size is the Planck length at 10 to the minus 36. So you can see we actually go smaller than we can go larger at the moment. So let's look at humans here. 1 meter. And then if we go down to what we're made up of is actually cells and microorganisms. So that's 2 step changes. If we go up 2 step changes from a human, look at that, we get to cities and large nations. Okay, same as us to cells and microorganisms. If we go down 3 step changes now to DNA and go to the opposite side of humans, up 3 step changes, 1, 2, 3, now we get to nations and small countries, basically nations, right? So think about that. DNA, basically the code system made up of molecules, smaller molecules. The DNA actually codes for us, right? For us to appear or to manifest, if you will. And we, as humans now, the same step up from us to DNA is to nations. So the same step change from humans down to our DNA, -9. If we go up now to +9, the same distance is from us to nations and small countries. And now if we look at 10 to the -21, so that number seemed to come up. So the 21 or 24, around that range, this is how the octaves are broken up. So if we go down 1 octave from humans, down to 10 to the -21, what do we get to? Atomic nuclei. So think about that, atomic nuclei. The actual radius of the smallest atom, the hydrogen atom, is a whole magnitude up, 1,000 times larger than atomic nuclei. But for us now, atomic nuclei is an A. So if we go to us, it's also an A. So could it be we are the center of something? Is this the base level? Is this the base level of this octave, atomic nuclei? And now from humans, now if we go up 10 to the 21, right? So atomic nuclei is an A, humans is an A, and now we go up 10 to the 21, now we get to the Milky Way galaxy. So could these be some sort of octaves? To here, to atomic nuclei, right? So super small, center of atoms, everything that we know is made up of these smaller particles, obviously, makes up to humans now. So a human now, could we be the base or center of the next octave, which would go up to a Milky Way galaxy, right? And then could the Milky Way galaxy actually be the base of the next whole octave? And if we go up 1 step from that now, we get to these local group of nearby galaxies. So this scale is basically, again, another step up, 1,000 times larger than Milky Way galaxy. But if we look at now, what do galaxies actually form? They form these voids, these large, extremely large structures that we don't understand, giant voids out in the universe. If we go down now, where's a B here? As you look, humans, etc., build up to this scale, larger scales, buildings and bridges, kind of the basic building blocks of cities and stadiums. Could that be the same as local group, nearby galaxies? As we find the actual makeup of the universe, the cosmic web, if you will, is made up of these structures, enormously large structures, right? But do appear to form some sort of structures, some sort of organization similar to our buildings and roads and bridges, right? So is there a relationship between humans and this size of buildings and bridges creating cities and large stadiums? Could it be the same as galaxies, essentially forming together to create structures, large formations that again make up the observable universe, which would be in some sort of relationship to large cities, stadiums, that size of organization. Let's look at DNA. So as an E, right? This has all the code, makes up life as we know it, at least on Earth. So if we go to the next octave up, what do we see here? We see Earth. Okay, so Earth lies in the same place as DNA nanoparticles. Could Earth and the surrounding planets somehow code similar to molecules and DNA? Could it code for the next structure up? The next structure up would be suns, the stars, right? You think about it, stars, Earth, and the solar systems make up a certain system, right? EFG. If we go down now to EFG again, what do we have here? DNA, nanoparticles make up cells and microorganisms that finally make up into larger multicellular organisms. So the idea is, could you actually see some sort of relationship? Are there solar systems out there, galaxies that actually act like biological systems? Is there some relationship to how life works at a lower level? Meaning, could it actually repeat? And those are the patterns that I asked ChatGPT to look into. So I asked ChatGPT to look at an analysis and summary across the table. And I'll just go through this first analysis. There's many more. I ask you to check out the paper. Link is in the description to the tweet. But quite short here, so last little section. When prompted to speculate patterns across the table, the geometric progression in the table, with step changes occurring at every 10 to the third scale, already suggests an underlying fractal or self-similar structure. Basic observation of the table shows specific patterns repeat themselves at different scales, like the octaves in a musical scale. Again, this is an observational theory. So this is those octaves I was talking about. Could this possibly bridge quantum to general relativity? Huge sizes. Let's see. So from 10 to the minus 36, 10 to the minus 15, this is the first C. And ChatGPT made these delineations. At the smallest scales and highest frequency, we find the Planck length, quantum foam, quantum particles, elementary particles, small atomic nuclei, hydrogen atoms, and atomic nuclei. Despite the vast differences in size, these structures share characteristics defined by quantum mechanics. The phenomenon at these scales are subject to quantum fluctuations and uncertainties, exhibiting a similar underlying form governed by quantum mechanical principles. So this octave, governed by quantum mechanical principles, that could be the key of that octave. Let's go to the next one. Second octave, from 10 to the minus 2 to 10 to the ninth. So again, C to C. This octave spans atomic nuclei, DNA, molecules, cells, tiny biological organisms, humans, and cities. So this is basically our octave. At the atomic scale, the core, with its orbiting electrons, mirrors the structure of solar systems at a much larger scale. DNA molecules and cells demonstrate self-organization and adaptability, similar to tiny organisms' survival mechanisms and the complex social structures we see in cities. Yes, we see all that in cities, nations, corporations, everything on the earth. But we also see that sort of same complex social structures in galaxies, how they actually are built up, how they operate. There are many more complex interactions. Galaxies eat other galaxies. They collide, they run into each other. It's almost like there's cells out there or acting similar to cells because of emergent properties. Make sense? Okay, the third octave. This is from C to B, 10 to 6 to the 24th for some reason. This octave encompasses Earth's geographical features, planetary systems, solar systems, interstellar distances, galaxies, galaxy clusters, and superclusters. These structures show the characteristics of gravity and mass distribution, with smaller entities orbiting larger masses similar to planets around a star or stars within a galaxy. So at this higher octave, or lower octave, right, much larger wavelength, lower frequency octave, it seems like gravity is the strongest force, right? Quantum effects, as far as we can tell, are not really playing into this system, right? It seems like gravity is much more the dominant force. Okay, and then finally, it's funny, ChatGPT added a fourth octave. I would have just included it, but they added a fourth. This octave encapsulates the observable universe and beyond. While much of this scale remains unexplored and subject to theoretical physics, the universe's homogeneous and isotropic nature, as the cosmological principle suggests, indicates that similar structures and patterns could continue to exist beyond our observable limits. The analysis reveals that across different scales of the universe, we find repeating patterns that echo each other, with entities at each scale resembling structures at other scales, potentially indicating an inherent fractal nature of the universe. So that's the formal paper. ChatGPT came up with many interesting perspectives, little details, linkings, harmonics, Fourier transforms, the idea of keys and tones, emergent properties, the idea of a fractal nature, and the fact it could just scan across so much data. It's just amazing. AI is already just changing the game. The theory videos for me allow me to reframe the perspective, to realize that people are programmable. We are all programmable. A human today, if you just threw into the jungle, could not survive. Humans in the past, they were badasses, man. They were out there running around, probably ripped, killing woolly mammoths, etc. Now today, man, you can barely make it to the car and back. So, we are a product of our ecosystem, and the ecosystem can be observed. This theory can be proven true or not. It either be proven that it's correct or it's not. So it is a testable theory, right? String theory, all these other things, not even testable. This we could actually test. And if it is true, then it would act like a Mendeleev periodic table of the elements, right? Now we could look at where does black holes fit into this? How do black holes apply? And we have an actual example to use from our own physical environment. The biggest problem about the greater universe is it's so large, the timescales are so large, is how are we going to study it? What kind of model can we even use? The point of this theory is to apply a model that we see around us every day, the model of nature, evolution, the idea that evolution will continue, that life is somehow related to the second law of thermodynamics. Maybe life is at all of these levels. And we just see it. It's just presented to us at the scalar dimensional level that we are at. This would give a theory to talk to the nations, to try and convince them that we are alive down here as humans, that actually the nations can survive. You don't need to be scared of death. You'll continue on. Life is eternal, nations. You don't have to be scared. We can move on and make the world a better place for everybody. These courageous people that are speaking out on our behalf, man, they are sacrificing for you and me. They're sacrificing for our rights, our right to transparency as humans on this planet. I don't think it's necessarily an evil in the world. It's systems. It's how the nature works. It's how nature works. If we can better understand it, then we can write ourselves, humans, into the future. Where is the future going? Is there a path for our planet? What is being kept from us about the NHIs? So exciting. Can't wait to find out. That's why I like making these videos, so I can go back and say, yeah, I called it or not, right? And maybe I was wrong. But either way, I'm out there. Thanks for all the support. Check out the full tweet on Twitter. It's an amazing resource, so check that out. And thank you so much again for staying to the end. Thanks for all your support. Have a great day. Take care. Peace.